you've been to Ukraine, you are very involved in this issue. How do you see this tragedy, this huge tragedy, and the future of Europe?
Yes, I've visited Ukraine, and Lithuania has initiated the group of all countries' parliament members to support Ukraine. So we're
Wonderful.
kind of trying to mobilize as much as possible politicians all over Europe to support Ukraine, and we were inviting about 7 countries' parliamentarians to Bucha, Kiev, Gostomel, and other sites, and we talked to the leadership of the country, involving the head of parliament and top of administration officials, and they said, we need to be in the family. We need not only weapons, not only sanctions, but it's the same level aim. We don't understand why you are not giving us the candidates. And actually, I don't understand. I don't understand the argument of Macron. I don't understand exactly the German policies to some extent. I understand, of course, some of it. And Ukrainians are really grateful for this huge amount of help. But I don't... Macron has lost all the opportunities to inspire and reform Europe. He never did that. He never inspired, he never set a real romantic, I really like this word, vision of Europe. And now Ukraine is the only possibility for us to, to recall what we are about, what is democracy, what is peace, what is human rights, what is human life, how deep we should be involved in defending it.
And all of these issues are not technical.
Absolutely.
We have to inspire people.
That's inspirational.
Yeah.
That's history. And people, when they participate in creation history, then they are building trust to institutions. If institutions are only, moving from Amsterdam to Brussels and to Nice, and they are changing some treaties, nobody's interested. But they will remember the place in Europe where Ukraine will be invited to Europe. This name of this town will be in historical books. So we need to do that. And I don't understand why they say that we have to wait for some Balkan state, or maybe we have to be polite with Turkey. I mean, what? So we need to give the candidacy. Lithuania is working very much on that. We are working together with you, with Romania and other countries. But we need to convince some very strange countries like Denmark, like Netherlands, which, I mean, those people, these countries, they are speaking about human rights all the time. Okay? See? Show how you defend human rights.
It's a good moment for...
do that.
Yeah.
So I think we will succeed anyway. And but on this side, I must say that not only romantic historical moment and this inspirational thing, because peace only comes after winning war, but also the contribution Ukrainian state and Ukrainian people can bring to Europe. They are really, they're really trying to think of new ideas. The Zelenski's team and his political team and his mobilized, thinkers, artists, politicians, they're really inventive. They are not only about, confronting Russia. It's not their main, goal. Actually, this was very much the main idea of political elites in our country. Confronting Russia. And actually we were right, because nobody believed us. But we were right, that we were always, this, quite strange Eastern Europeans talking all the time about Russian threat. Nobody took us seriously that much. But Ukrainians are really inventive in many fields. I think they will provide us some solutions to climate change. They will provide us some solution to inequalities, region development, food sovereignty, democracy building. You look at the list of the ideas Zelensky's party has for Ukraine for the next 10 years. It's a huge amount of ideas, and they can implement them because they have the majority in parliament, and so let's do it together. Why not? It's a new laboratory of ideas.
What do you think about Zelensky as a person? Have you seen the series, The Servant of the People? Because when I watched it, it was very inspiring, and I think it's a very, very good movie.
Yes, I agree, and I've seen it even before most of the people saw it, much before he became a president. I started to observe him before, because I know his cultural production as well. For me, it's interesting was that from a Russian-speaking guy with no Ukrainian background, so to say, in terms of language, because he learned Ukrainian when he became president. He never spoke Ukrainian. He had a huge company of making comedies, serious and stand-up and so on. So I watched him how he transforms from a Russian-speaking guy into a real Ukrainian top politician, top thinker, and top entertainer. And it's really looking at his team and him, you can see how this nation is developing, how it's disattached from Russian influence, how it looks for its own ways. It's just a story of his life. It's very interesting, and of course he's extremely experienced person in terms of leadership, because he had a huge corporation of this cultural products. So he's really experienced guy, and he brought so many professionals to power, not politicians, not only politicians, but also professionals from different fields.
And what do you think when you saw him standing for elections?
I was the first person in Lithuania to say this guy will win. I posted that on Facebook, and nobody knew the name. So and it happened. And then I met him when I was in Parliament, and he was visiting Lithuania.
Before the war?
Yeah, it was before the war, 2020, I think, and. I think that they also made many mistakes. I really like the series, because that was your question. But still, in this series they copied some of the stereotypes of our societies, and I think that we have to overcome some of them, especially the political side. People do not trust political institutions in our countries, and that's wrong, because you don't have to always to repeat that all politicians are crap or corrupted. That's a way to nowhere. In the end of the day, you still need political instruments to be used. Not only entertainment industry doesn't provide you political instruments.
Had you this feeling that Mr. Zelensky tell you, look, my friends, I think that Russia will invade us. I think Russia will...
No, there was I didn't had this deep opportunity on discussing many things, but it was more a formal meeting. But what I have observed a lot the Ukrainian politics, because it's no language barrier, and so we can be a little bit involved. And so, of course, after 2014, everything has changed, and they have been preparing for any kind of scenarios. That's clear, because they are managed to withstand. So that's the proof. But no, there was no feeling that it will happen. This war really was that this kind of war will happen. Of course, this regional war that Russia has started against Ukraine is. But I think that Ukrainians still made the best strategy against Russians. They started to rebuild their country that was not taken in the east, the parts of Donbass, and it was clear difference in living standards, in life quality and so on. So in income, and of course it was the biggest argument for people to stand with the Ukrainian flag.
Yeah. You told me that you've been to Ukraine. You've been to Bucha and maybe other places. Can you tell me more what you've seen there? What were your feelings there?
Yeah, in Bucha, what struck me very much was when I saw the people riding bicycles. There was these images of shot people on bicycles, and when we moved through Bucha, it was like so many people riding bicycles. It was really striking. And I talked to people that were actually on the occupation, and they showed the videos taken by themselves. These are extreme footages, and they talked how they escaped, how they pretended, for example, to be doctors just to survive. And I mean, it is a story. It is. Politicians should go there and should get the real feeling of it. And I think it makes difference. And we are privileged not to fight a real war. We just need to help. That's a privilege. And when we hear argument that even in this discussion there was an argument that we will lose 2% of GDP if we start blocking Russian oil just right out to blocking totally. I mean, that's not an argument. During the World War II in London, there was no free market economy. There was a war economy. That's okay for some time, and we should prepare ourselves for some shortages of electricity or cars or something. But this is war. This is how wars happen. After that, they will be all right. We will win anyway because Russia is so weak. I mean, economically, it cannot withstand Europe and US. It's impossible. I mean, we don't have to fear this. Talks about nuclear war, of course, and we have to prepare for some shortages, of course, for some discomfort. That's the only thing we need. We don't have to fight.
That's for a good cause, for a noble
of course,
cause.
for the noble cause. And when we involve some economic arguments, that is so strange and that is so immoral, I think.
What would you say to those people who say, look, in Bucha was some fake things. Russia is good, Putin is good, Zelenski is bad, the Ukrainians are Nazis, and what would you say to such kind of people who share some conspiracy theories or views like this?
Yeah, but some of the people said that the elections in the US were rigged and stolen. So, I mean, this is the reality. Some of the people tend to believe in conspiracy theories. Luckily, this is very small amount of people, and luckily we can overcome that, and we have to educate ourselves how to use the media, how to use the sources. That's what politicians should do. The big problem when real politicians with some influence started to spread that. And in Ukrainian case, it doesn't happen on a very big scale in Europe, because it's only Russia that tries to produce this conspiracy theories. Nobody's buying it anymore. But in the US it was a little bit different story. But what I want to say here is Russia is providing more conspiracy theories, even all LGBT rights. It's Russia that is, the leader of conspiracy theories production in terms of Europe being too much, gay Europe, and so on. Russian Orthodox Church is something awful. It's just talking about homosexuality.
One more question. What European Union should do now for Ukraine?
I think there's only one measure, only one real decision that should be taken in Brussels this month is candidacy status, which gives Ukrainians spiritual argument. They need spirit, because in the war technology, the moral is very important, as we learn, because we're all pacifists, we don't know much, but when we now see generals on the screens and they are like saying, planes, tanks, and moral. So it's very important. So for Ukrainians, candidacy status is moral. It's inspiration. And if we lack spirit to give them this, then it's even weapons will not help.
And you said that we are pacifists. We are pacifists, but we have to win this war.
Yeah, passive. You can be pacifist only when you win a war. You can have a privilege to be a pacifist after you win a war.
Yeah.
And now we even don't have to fight ourselves. We just need to mobilize.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.